An economic slowdown in China spells trouble for the world, and not only with respect to the economy. Such an event could easily lead to loss of aerosol masking at a sufficient level to rapidly heat Earth beyond the 2 degrees Celsius we have already bypassed. China, the United States, India, Germany, France, the UK, and Italy are experiencing stunningly slow economic growth. As I have said for many years, the so-called Great Recession has not ended. World leaders were able to convince the masses otherwise. The evidence indicates that climate change is causing a worldwide reduction in economic growth. Perhaps we are amid an economic event greater than the Great Depression from more than 80 years ago. In any event, the global fiscal outlook is terrible. As you probably expected, anthropogenic climate change is to blame for this ongoing economic event. Based on articles from corporate media outlets, let's examine the numbers. The Economic Times reported on September 16, 2024, that the Chinese economy is headed for a severe slowdown. The article is titled, "Forget the U.S., it's the Chinese economy that is heading for a severe slowdown. Here's how it could impact the world." The story opens with a synopsis. Quote, "The Chinese economy could be on the brink of an impending recession, something the United States is already facing. Moreover, reports suggest that the economy of China is slowly heading towards a severe slowdown too, meaning that it has the capacity to affect the entire world." End quote. Here's the lead. Quote, "The entire world could be feeling the effect of an impending recession in a country, something that is already raising alarms across worldwide stock markets." End quote. The first paragraph finishes with this sentence. Quote, "China, one of the most powerful countries in terms of international trade, is feeling the effect of recession fears and could end up falling short of its economic targets." End quote. The next 4 paragraphs fall into 2 subsections. Under the subhead, quote, "Jobless rate increase, biggest recession indicator," end quote, comes this paragraph. Quote, "The jobless rate sharply increased in China, with the current figure being the highest in the last 6 months, as per a Bloomberg report. Moreover, factory output and investment also showed major risks in the Chinese economy, which could extend its wings to other parts of the world as well, leading to major economic concerns across the world." End quote. Beneath the subhead, quote, "China could end up in an economic spiral," end quote, comes this paragraph. Quote, "Housing prices showed a sharp drop in recent months, the fastest in the last 10 years, that clearly depicts a lack of confidence in the Chinese economy, and rate cuts have done little to ease up the market scenario. Meanwhile, there are calls from market gurus from across the globe for China to adapt an aggressive policy response, with just a few months left for the end of the financial year in China." End quote. The article in the Economic Times concludes with this bottom line. Quote, "The fears of an impending recession in China are increasing with every passing day, and, as the year ends, the country is well short of its economic target, leading to confidence loss among Chinese investors." End quote. More bad news about China's economy comes from Barron's. The headline from September 21, 2024 reads, "China's economy is sputtering. More pain may be ahead in 2025. The lead tells the story. Quote, "China's economic troubles are deepening, with one economist warning clients the country is heading for a recession and could need a U.S.-style bank bailout." End quote. If that sounds unsettling, then you are paying attention. As I said, an economic slowdown in China spells trouble for the world, and not only with respect to the economy. Such an event could easily lead to loss of aerosol masking, and therefore rapidly heat Earth beyond the 2 degrees C already behind us. A second article from the Economic Times refers to the United States. Published on November 28, 2024, it is titled, "Recession to Hit USA Soon? Here's What Americans Expect." Again, it begins with a synopsis. Quote, "The U.S. economy is witnessing an improved outlook from Americans. This has come after Donald Trump has won the presidential election." End quote. The open paragraph brings a surprise, at least to me. Quote, "Apprehensions over the likelihood of recession hitting the U.S. economy often send around the globe. However, Americans' outlook on the economy improved modestly in November, lifted by expectations for lower inflation and more hiring, end quote. For those of you looking for more evidence that people in the country of my birth aren't the brightest bulbs in the pack, this is it. I seriously doubt, based on Trump's prior experience in the Oval Office and the statements he has made leading up to his forthcoming tenure as president, that, quote, expectations for lower inflation and more hiring, end quote, will be met by reality in either expectation. In fact, this article in the Economic Times indicates, quote, that sentiment surveys may not be as useful a guide to the economy's direction as they were in the past, end quote. When asked about their hopes for 2025, quote, consumers overwhelmingly selected higher prices as their top concern and lower prices as their top wish for the new year, end quote. These dreams of lower prices came a few hours after, quote, Trump said he would impose stiff 25% tariffs on all imports from Canada and Mexico and an additional 10% on imports from China. Economists and some retailers warn that such duties, if enacted, would be inflationary, end quote. The article concludes with a line from Samuel Toombs, the chief U.S. economist at Pantheon Macroeconomics. Quote, households for now seem to have their heads in the sand about the potential uplifts to consumer prices from tariffs and deportations, or they think Trump wasn't serious about his intentions during the campaign, end quote. I suspect Trump was serious about his intentions during the campaign. Tough times lie ahead. From the Business Standard on December 7th, 2024 comes an article titled, India GDP growth hits 7-quarter low of 5.4% in Q2 amid manufacturing slump. The first paragraph provides context. Quote, India's GDP, gross domestic product, growth for the July to September quarter dropped to a surprising 5.4%, the lowest level since Q3 FY23, the third quarter of 2023, according to data released by the National Statistics Office on November 29, 2024. This figure represents a sharp fall from 8.1% in the same period last year and 6.7% in the April to June quarter. Economists had projected a moderation to 6.5%, but the economy underperformed expectations, plunging to a near 2-year low, end quote. The bottom line comes in the final two sentences. Quote, India's economic recovery faces headwinds as inflation persists and corporate earnings falter. Economists caution that these issues could further impact private consumption, a key growth driver, end quote. From Euronews on October 9, 2024 comes another dismal story about economics, titled, Germany's economic struggles deepen, a back-to-back recession looms. The article opens with these two sentences. Quote, Germany's economic downturn deepens with a projected contraction in 2024, marking its second consecutive year of decline. Manufacturing struggles and global competition, especially from China, highlight structural issues, end quote. Based on economic troubles in China, perhaps Germany's projected economic contraction will allow it to keep up with this ongoing race to the bottom. From Reuters comes an article about France on November 4, 2024, titled, French Industry Stuck in Recession and Outlook Stays Bleak, Survey Finds. Here's the lead. Quote, France's manufacturing sector remained stuck in decline in October as factory output fell at its fastest rate in 9 months, dragged down by low new orders, particularly from international clients, end quote. An economist at Hamburg Commercial Bank said, quote, the French manufacturing sector remains mired in a deep crisis. The outlook remains bleak, with no sign of an upward trend on the horizon, end quote. The article closed with 2 paragraphs, quote, the economic downturn was exacerbated by a steep fall in export orders, which decreased at one of the fastest rates in the survey's history amid geopolitical tensions and a slowing global economy. Domestic demand also weakened, with cautious consumer spending and a struggling construction sector cited as factors by polled company executives, end quote. Economic powerhouses are in decline. The days of economic growth are nearing an end. As American economist Kenneth Boulding said long ago, quote, anyone who believes that exponential growth can go on forever in a finite world is either a madman or an economist, end quote. I'm not sure how to distinguish the two of them. On the topic of, quote, either a madman or an economist, end quote, we have today's presidential inauguration in the country of my birth. Consistent with a pattern clearly established since my birth, we are about to inaugurate the worst president in my life. If he isn't insane, he's putting on quite a convincing act. Considering his propensity to declare bankruptcy, I assure you, he is no economist. I suspect we are headed for levels of misogyny, racism, and financial disparity unparalleled in human history. If you are seeking solace, a line from Southwestern American writer, speaker, and public figure Edward Abbey comes to mind. Quote, when the situation is hopeless, there's nothing to worry about. End quote.